In this podcast, I'm joined by JJ Ducart and Mitch Stamm with Bluff Country Outdoors and one of the biggest 8-pointers that we've ever seen. He breaks the ice and kicks off the season with a 167-inch 8-pointer from Buffalo County, Wisconsin, and we're going to break down the full hunt and story. Before we get into it, a few giveaway winners to announce. Kyle Weller with a Mossy Oak Bottomland 2.0 extinguisher. JT Klein with the Illusion Gray 2.0 extinguisher. And the Easy Greens food plot system for Cody Blease 7335. So if you're one of those giveaway winners, make sure you reach out to us on social or drop us a comment below. But now let's get into the story with Mitch and this giant Wisconsin 8-pointer.
The Deer Society podcast is brought to you by Illusion Hunting Systems, Onyx Hunt, Reveal Cellular Cameras, 10-Point Crossbows, Prime Archery, Loophole Optics, G5 Broadheads, Osseo Gear, Raw Frozen Scents, and HHA.
Well, let's kick this thing off, and I guess there's no better way to kick it off than to talk about the elephant in the room. It is the opening week of bow season here in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota. And to kick things off and break the ice in true fashion, there is a big buck on the table. And Mitch, you set the bar pretty high on this one, dude. This is an absolute legendary buck. One of the biggest 8-pointers that I've ever seen. Massive frame, huge deer. And you have quite the story to go along with it, it sounds like.
Yeah. Couple years of history actually with this guy too. The first time I ever seen him was 2023. I took my nephew out during the youth season, and we had him come out one night, and he had a really cool frame, and he had kind of a G2 that kind of curled in, and he had a kicker off his brow, so he's pretty recognizable that next year because he had the same little characteristic off his brow tine there. So we saw him once that time, and then I saw him again in November chasing does and running around like crazy, and got a cool encounter with him. And then obviously the next year I had quite a few clips on social media, and I think you guys posted a couple too. And I think the caption was like, is this guy 2 feet wide or something like that? So pretty much that's how we got his name. I called him the 2-footer after that, and was praying and hoping that he'd make it through the season, and texted all the neighbors, and luckily they were all on board to passing that buck too. And actually one of them sent me an iPhone clip passing him up in like mid-November, I think. Oh, that's cool. So shout out to him for passing him up too. That's pretty awesome when you have good neighbors like that, and lived till next year and got even bigger than the year before and grew mass, and just an unreal buck. Can't be more thankful that he walked out in front of me second night of the season.
Well, that's awesome, and I want to get into the story further. And you're humble in saying that. I know that you put in a lot of work, throughout the years in the off season and prep and scouting, and there's a lot more than this deer just walking out in front of you randomly, on the second night of the season. But how big? Just tell us a little bit about like this buck sitting here. So he's obviously an 8-pointer, Wisconsin. How big is he? What do you score? Just tell me a little bit about. He's super wide, obviously.
Yeah. Yep. So we roughed him out when we got him back and out of the woods that first night, and he was right around like 167 and 4/8. But I know Shane, he's a good friend of mine, and I texted him up. I'm like, hey, I kind of want to just double check and see what you get on this guy, see if we're anywhere close. And he got 166 and 3/8 on him. So, and 25 and 7/8 wide. So I kind of undercalculated him a little bit, but man, it's pretty freaking awesome deer. Yeah. Can't stop looking at him too. Just he has this cool whiter rack. He had a cool, like last year his rack was so white, like I couldn't even believe it too. But he just shed velvet like 4 days ago, and he's been rubbing a little bit. You can see a couple little spots there where he's been rubbing, but awesome buck.
Yeah, most people don't round down on their numbers. The 2-footer, this guy's over that.
Yeah.
You sent us a couple pictures of him at 3. We got to see those, and it was kind of crazy how 3-year-old, you could tell he's the same buck, but he didn't have that wide look like you thought it could be into 4 and 5. It kind of a big change there.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But a buck that you got multiple years of history. Those are the types of stories we like to tell, and you're going to have a nice video production of it.
Oh, yeah.
Story too. So it's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, looking forward to making the story out of him and letting people see the 2023 to 2024 and kind of how he evolves and just the overall shot and everything. And all of my buddies coming out and helping tracking that night, that was something special right there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, to be able to capture that, not only do you have that story, but to be able to capture it all and tell that story through video, that's so special on a deer of this caliber and, any deer, but, especially a deer like this to be able to video it. And you were self-filming, right?
Yep. Yeah, I usually self-film a lot of my hunts. If I can get a cameraman to come with, I will, but the only one that really knows how to run a DSLR is Brody, and I do videography and photography full time, so I'm kind of picky on who's filming. I don't want like a Canon G30 behind me or whatever. I want the best 4K stuff I can get, so I always try out and go film with my Canon R6 I got and have a nice microphone and everything and got a nice 24 to 240 lens, and it's pretty kick-ass.
Right on.
Well, we got to move it. We got to show the viewers if they're watching. We got to give them a little better look here. I try to pick them up.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
That would do her some justice.
Yeah, that's a king. How tall are those brows? Do you remember?
I think 7 4/8 or something like that.
Almost 26 inches wide.
Yeah.
Beams. Those beams got to be, how long are those beams?
I think they're both right around 26 too.
Huge beams, big, massive bases are ginormous.
Yep. The only thing that really goes down as being an 8-pointer is mass isn't as big on the 4th one there, but I'm not really complaining.
Let them walk.
Yeah.
No. So, the growth of this deer over the years, you've documented them for the last few years. Just walk me through a little bit. I know you touched on him having some stickers and some different characteristics, but walk me through kind of the growth that you saw year after year, kind of started the first year you had him and then walk through that, what that growth looked like.
So 2023, like I was saying, he is just a normal 8-pointer pretty much, and had that split off his brow. I think it was on that side right there. And I mean, he looked like he kind of had the frame he could do something, but I did not think he would kind of just explode outwards like that. Like I thought he'd maybe gain mass and tine length and everything, but the next year he literally just exploded outwards and had that same kind of brow tine, that other kicker brow that kind of came off that made him pretty recognizable from the year before. And I think the first couple pictures I got of him in 2024 was in June, and you could already see like how wide he was getting, and I was pretty excited to see what he was going to turn into. And I think after June, the next picture I got was like in August, and all I got was one side of his head kind of on it, and you could just see how wide he was just with that one side. And yeah, I was like, oh man, I want to put more cameras out and see what this guy actually looks like, and got him not too far after that. And just a big wide 8-pointer in 2024 too. And then this year, I think he put on probably 15 inches or so. He's probably low 150s or something last year, which that's a heck of an 8-pointer too.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So this deer, how much did he change over the years in like what he did, how he acted, his home area? Was he pretty much in the same spot, or did he shift that over the years?
He was actually really consistent with his patterns, which kind of made it easier, but kind of made it tougher too, because he had probably 4 different spots that I'd get him like here and there kind of daylighting. 3 for sure. 1 was kind of on the fringe of him. So I kind of tried to set up little kill plots and everything to kind of like design a little spot for him to set up if he was coming in daylight there. And he ended up coming to a spot when I shot him that I shot a buck the year before that I think we had like a half-acre food plot up there. And we had a huge storm probably 3 or 4 weeks ago that went through and just crashed a huge giant oak tree right in the middle of the food plot. So we had to go back over there, and we had to get a dozer up there to break it down and push it off to the side of the food plot. And I think we planted it on August 22nd. So we planted a bunch of rye and a bunch of clover and everything and got that established, and they were hitting that rye like almost as soon as it started popping up. So it continued to be a draw for him, and he kept pretty close to that area. He was on camera up there in that food plot and down by that water hole, and he kind of liked another little spot more that we called Mr. Funky Blind, because we had a kind of a messed up rack one come in there that my buddy Dustin had to pass up on because he was just going out there shooting does. So we brought him out there to shoot a doe one night, and he walks by at 15, 20 yards. And it's actually, that spot is one that I brought my brother to, and we redug the water hole up and put a tarp down and everything, knowing that he was daylight there quite a bit last year too. So we wanted that spot pretty primo and set just in case he wanted to stay by there once the season came around. But that was the spot that I got him most of the time in the summer.
Right on.
Well, improvising there with that big oak tree hitting the plot.
Yeah.
Knowing what can grow fast. We've had good rain.
Yep.
Which is helpful. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a good rain season. You think that's why maybe he added a couple inches too?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely could have played into effect there. And we planted a lot of clover last year too. I really like planting clover and keeping that for nutrition for them kind of throughout the spring and everything, because it's the first couple things that green up there. And yeah, just big fan of clover and rye. Rye when in doubt, rye it out. Me and Brody and Fletcher and all them, we all joke about that. Putting rye in last minute, it's always a must. Yeah.
Did you have any sheds off this deer?
Actually, my neighbor over there got permission to shed hunt right where he hunts. My buddy Ted Marham, he hunts. He's like right on our corner of our line there, and he found one of his sides last year just out laying in a grassy field. So I actually went over to his house and kind of looked at it, and we scored one of the sides last year, and I think I scored it at like 63 and some change or something like that. And I think both sides were right close to 70. So he grew just 7+ inches on one side. So put 2 and 2 together, they're right around 15 inches he maybe grew.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. So this deer, heading into this year, obviously when he showed back up, and you said he was pretty regular, and you kind of, had history with him, and so knew a little bit about what he was doing and, just what he's done in the past. Did you know, like, as you were getting those pictures, I'm really like, I'm going to get in there early and put a plan into place, like right away when the season starts?
Yeah, normally, I got him in daylight on another spot on Friday because there was a big kind of storm that came through, and we got a lot of rain that night, and he was moving right before it. So I was kind of thinking if I was going to go hunting that weekend, that's where I was going to end up hunting. But he was daylight. I had to work that Saturday. I had to film a wedding. And as soon as I got back, I'm checking my cameras, checking the Reveal app, and go through, and I'm like, oh, man, he was at the pond literally at last light. Then I kept scrolling down. I'm like, he's in daylight an hour before dark in that same food plot. So I'm like, man, it's kind of you have to go up we have a long trail system that kind of comes around from the east side and wraps around this big old ridge. And I'm like, I hate to be aggressive on the first night of the season and go after him, but he was daylight there last night. It's almost dumb not to.
Yep.
So I wanted to get my dad on him. I was bugging him. We were at a birthday party that Sunday and was trying to get him to come out with me. And initially he's like, yeah, I'll go out. Yeah, that sounds good. Then I think the heat might have wore onto him a little bit as the day progressed. And he's like, yeah, you can go out. I don't know if I want to go out. It's a little too hot out. I was like, well, I'm going to give her a try here. So ended up getting lucky. It was pretty cool.
So we see that all the time, and we do. I mean, if you get a pattern on a buck early, there's almost no better time. Early season, late season.
Yeah.
Way more consistency. They got their guard down.
Yeah.
So good job going in there.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? Because it was a warm, like it wasn't a barometric pressure deal with cold front. There was no rain.
Yeah.
It was just hot. Do you think was there any, I don't know what the moon was that night, but do you know if there's anything else? Where there's rain 2 days before?
There was rain on Friday, yeah, but I think the wind kind of changed too on Friday when it was a little cooler. And then it had to have been out of the north or something with a little cool front coming in. But it changed to south-southeast, I think, that next day. And it kind of stayed consistent that same day. So I was like, well, the wind hasn't changed at all. I don't think he's going to come from where he was bedding the night before and go all the way back down to that bottom there. So I thought if he was going to be anywhere close, he'd be close to that food plot again. I think he was bedding in the cornfield even too, which helped me a little bit more because kind of snuck in past that cornfield to get in there. And he came out probably half hour left daylight, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, and kind of had a debacle getting my bow back and getting a shot at him, but got lucky where he had his mind on other things. He was hitting a little scrape post that I put out at like 32 yards. He hit one side and then went on to the other side and caused me to mess around and get the back window open so I could draw back all the way. And then I had my pin, my HHA set at 32 yards when he was sitting there, and then he ends up coming in closer because a smaller buck walked right below the blind. And I look up and he's coming through this little tree, and I just see his big wide rack coming right at me. So I had to let down again, change my pin back to 20, move the camera on him, draw back, and kind of tip around to the corner of this front window that I had to shoot him. And yeah, I mean, last year I kind of had a tough go in Iowa. I got ducked twice by 2 different bucks and high shouldered him. So as soon as he stepped in the food plot, I'm like, aim off the shoulder, aim off the shoulder, aim off the shoulder. I just kept telling myself that. And then after all that went down in the blind, I'm just sitting there telling myself, just get an arrow off at this thing. Like, he's going to get away, and I want to be so upset. But got lucky with the shot, hit a little closer to the shoulder than I wanted to, but that new G5 ate him up. And yeah, there was pretty good blood trail too, even, which was surprising with the shoulder hit. But
well, that's awesome. Kudos to you for keeping it together in that scenario. And, you know, a lot of us, I've been there, like, self-filming too, and it's so easy at that point. And I've done this, like, on the negative side. It's just like you almost abandon the camera, or like you lose focus in the camera, and it's just like when all hell breaks loose, it's like, you know, you have a deer of that caliber standing there within that range. Like, I would say more times than not, like, it goes awry, and you get that, but to keep your composure and to be able to let down and fix the camera and open the back window, like, there's a lot going on there. That's impressive.
I'm sure it sounds really loud too with that Rode mic right next to the tripod, because I let down that first time and I didn't have like anywhere to like set it off to have enough room to like let down, so I had to do it right in front of me, and I think my elbow or something hit my tripod and it kind of moves a little bit and comes back, and it probably sounded really loud being right next to the mic like that. But he kind of looked up at me a little bit and then just went around to the other side of the tree and hit the other side of the scrape. And yeah, got lucky at his mind on other things. That's for sure.
Man, yeah, that's the good and bad of a blind.
Yeah.
And obviously conceals you scent-wise, visual, but man, getting shots off in those can be pretty tough, especially when you're trying to film with that angle through some window. And that's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, that's the first buck ever shot out of a blind too, so it was kind of a milestone, I guess. I don't know if you call it a milestone, but yeah, check that one off the list, I guess.
Was this buck, like, when you would see him, you know, on trail camera and that kind of stuff, was he kind of a loner, or was he with other bucks or other deer, or like, what was his demeanor like?
Yeah, me and Ted actually talked about that, because he had a lot of pictures of him last year too, and he seemed like a loner last year, like didn't really want anything to do with any other deer, and we always kind of noticed that in trail cameras. But this year, I don't know if something changed. I don't know if shooting that buck last year too kind of opened up his territory and like made him more top of the ranks and buck-wise. But it seemed like he liked hanging out with other deer a lot more than he did last year. And I have a couple pictures of him in some food plots kind of even posturing up the last week or so. So he definitely ran that couple of those food plots with the smaller bucks that were around. And he actually came in and started sparring with a smaller buck the night I shot him too.
Yeah. God, it's got to be interesting for him to spar. Like, good thing he's got the big brows in the middle there, because the rest of his rack is just going right past the other deer's head.
Yeah, wait till you see the footage. It's pretty comical with that little guy probably taking up his brow tines, and that's about it.
Yeah, well, how big was the other one?
Probably a yearling or 2.5-year-old, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty
How much taller was he than the other deer?
A lot.
So
that's one thing I noticed about him too. He is just such a tall buck. Like, there's other body types for deer too, that the one I shot last year there, he was just a shorter legged, just a thicker body. I think he weighed like 230 or something last year. But I bet this one was probably 205, 210 if I had to guess, something like that. Which, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure how old he was, if he was 4 or 5, but he was a shooter nonetheless.
I would think you'd be at least 5 based on what pictures I
That's what I
saw.
was kind of guessing, but not 100% sure.
Yeah,
Did you keep the teeth?
Yeah, Jack's got them right now, my taxidermist.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, like, you look at that, it's so interesting. We have this discussion all the time around deer and age of deer, and you try to look at their body and you try to look at their rack, and like there's so many variables that go into how old they are, and it's really hard to tell. I think especially when they get 4.5 or 5.5 and then older than that, it's like, it's a crapshoot, really.
Yeah.
Unless you have that prior history with them.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this buck and his rack just sitting here on the table, and if I didn't know anything else about him, I'd be like, man, that deer's gotta be 5 or more. I mean, you look at his bases and like the pedicles and just the mass there around the bottom, like that's impressive. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you sent the teeth in, like how old it comes back at.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, even the mass kind of like right here, even splitting the two in the main beam here is pretty cool. I mean, the bases are what kind of just get you going too. You go up on them and you grab them for the first time, like, man, that's a awesome buck right there. I don't care how big he is. When they get the bases like that, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's to that point, that's something we talk about all the time too. It's just like there's a caliber of deer. When you walk up to a caliber of deer like that, it's just a completely different feeling when you pick up a deer like that versus like you can even shoot a super high scoring deer that's maybe a little younger, doesn't have the mass like that, or nothing wrong with it, but like there's just a different feeling when you pick up a deer like that.
Yeah, no doubt. It's it kind of changes your whole mentality after a while when I've shot a couple leading up to it that were probably 3 or 4 year olds, but then once you shoot that first one, you're like, man, I want to make sure I get one like this and grow them like this. So it kind of sets the bar for you.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely, I joked with you earlier and said that you're kind of like a legend now. And I say that half jokingly only because, I mean, you've put together a string of some pretty impressive bucks over the years. I mean, and some not only just impressive bucks, but really standout bucks. I mean, I would consider this one obviously a standout buck. Johnny's buck, obviously a super standout buck. Those are super kind of upper echelon bucks. And to do it on video is pretty cool. And to build those stories, that's what, obviously you do the videography thing for a living and have your channel Bluff Country Outdoors, and then, showcasing them here through the Deer Society too, just being able to build that history and tell those stories with this kind of deer, pretty cool and pretty impressive for sure.
Yeah, pretty fortunate to be able to hunt and do all that kind of stuff with my dad and my friends and family. That's pretty much what keeps the motor running. I think as soon as I shot this guy, I called my dad, called my brother, called all my buddies and FaceTimed them, and then we kind of all met up at my cabin and went through the shot probably 100 times and went on DeerCast track and looked what other like shots like that did. So we kind of came up.
How'd you feel after that?
I mean, a lot of them looked good. There was one that I think it was Tom Ware shot this buck, but he ended up not getting him. And I'm like, I don't want to watch that one. Let's go to a different clip here. But yeah, we just kept looking back at that footage, and it looks like that G5 hits the edge of the shoulder blade there and kind of deflects. So I was thinking maybe it definitely helped me a little bit there. And yeah, lucky enough where he was bleeding good the whole way. We didn't have to really stop and look around much. Just followed the blood trail and came up on him. Yeah, it's a very, very special moment having everybody there too. I just had my buddy Dustin and my brother Parker with me when we had a couple lights and we were tracking them, and then had everybody else waiting down below in the ranger waiting for that call that we got them, because we didn't want to bring too many people in there to track them. And once we found them, it was a party after that. I got some cool GoPro clips of everybody coming up and high-fiving and everything. And yeah, it's probably one of the best video clips, and probably the one I'll replay most in my head over the next couple of years probably.
That's awesome. Super cool. So I want to kind of go back, a little bit to the cornfield thing. So, it's interesting that this deer potentially, and you think that he was bedded in that cornfield. Do you think that he was bedding there a lot throughout the summer? Like, do you think that's just kind of where he was calling home?
I don't think in the summer he did as much, but once September rolled around, because I didn't get pictures of him up top in the spot that I shot him until late August. So he kind of just showed up there, and he probably had his couple spots that he bedded in from the year before because he was up there a lot the year before in daylight. And I'm sure he had, well, it wasn't corn last year either. So I'm sure he found a spot that he liked when he was out maybe in the cornfield eating one night. And he's like, oh, this is a good spot to bed down. But yeah, there was a couple different spots where he liked to bed. I got him on camera quite a bit in the summer during daylight. So he's had multiple different spots during the summer and leading up to that. But once September kind of rolled around, he kind of shifted his range to up towards the Bluff more, and yeah, kind of got his whole home core area kind of dialed in there.
How far do you think that shift was, like from where you were getting them, a lot during the summer and then shifting up to the ridgetop? You say, like, how far is that shift?
It's probably a couple 100 yards where I got them from all summer to up there. And it's a lot of elevation too. It's just a very steep bluff that he made it up and got back up there. I put a lot of, I call them soaker cameras out, just non-cellular cameras that I just throw out there to they're kind of on old logging roads and kind of close to bedding and everything. So it'd be interesting to see if he kind of cut through this one logging road that I got pictures of him on a couple years ago. So it'd be cool to see that.
For sure.
I'm assuming you guys plant 30-inch rows.
Yeah. Well, he was actually on the cornfield on the neighbors, so I don't know what rows he plants. But I actually made that joke in the summer to my friends. I'm like, how does that guy walk through a cornfield?
Yeah, he's almost got to walk sideways.
Yeah, literally.
Those out a little bit.
Yeah,
miserable.
They amaze you every year. Different things they can do.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Truly special. Yeah,
that's awesome. Where do you think this deer ranks for you in just like the bucks that you've shot? Where's he rank?
He's got to hold a number 2 spot for now, just because Johnny's buck meant a lot to me, and I chased him for a long time throughout the year. But yeah, first night in was kind of lucky, so I didn't get to build much history with him this year. But Johnny's buck is truly a once in a lifetime one. Well, score-wise even, but having an 8-pointer that size is truly incredible too. So it's kind of hard to tell. They're both number one. I'll say they're both number one up there for me.
Let me ask you this. So obviously everything came together, right? This is almost a perfect textbook scenario where, you built the inventory of this buck throughout the summer, early season pattern, you had the food there, like you had the spot set, you put in that work on the front end, boom, second night you tag out.
Yep.
Let's play devil's advocate a little bit. How do you think the strategy would have shifted if you hadn't killed this buck on the second night? Like, what do you think the season would have ended up looking like, and how would it have shifted from early season?
I probably would have been sitting in that spot in specific probably quite a bit too, because just going off last year's history, he liked being up there, and he was in daylight actually quite a bit up there even too. But last year when I shot my buck, I think it was on the 25th, and we were in there all dragging him out and made a whole bunch of ruckus and everything. And the next night he's out there at 5 o'clock at that water hole. So he liked to call that spot up there home. I mean, there's a really nice south-facing ridge up there too. Once it gets a little colder, a lot more deer start bedding over there, and especially bucks. But normally it's just all does that are, because I didn't have a lot of buck pictures that whole summer up on that spot until September kind of rolled around, and then they start showing up, which gets really pumped up once the cooler weather starts coming in and everything.
Yeah, I bet. I know you had mentioned too that, you kind of wrap all the way up around this property and you kind of take the ranger in and mark it. And you had mentioned that, going in there throughout the summer, like you would take the ranger right in there, and this deer really didn't seem to mind that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't know I think that's just something that goes into effect with like how we kind of go throughout the whole year. I mean, we're on the property a lot, and when we normally go off to like different stands or anything, I'll have either me or my dad or my brother or someone will literally drive up to the stand, drop them off, wait till you're up, and take off. So they kind of get used to it. I don't know if they can't put 2 and 2 together that it was here and now it's gone. I don't know if they just can't really put that together, but I'm glad they can, because it's worked out a couple times for us, and kind of got that idea from my buddy Dustin growing up. We'd always go sit at his grandpa's and you could only hunt this one spot if his grandpa took him in there with a 4-wheeler, crossed over the fence, waited till we got up in the tree, then took off, and got that idea from him, and it's worked out pretty good ever since.
Right on.
Yeah.
What do you think, JJ? You gonna shoot one like that this year?
I don't think I can find one like that this year. Because we don't know if it's the state record. We don't think it's the state record, but it's close to a state record. 8.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what.
I know you think about like 160 inch, and that's a really big deer, but when it's an 8, that's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, and especially just like a clean 8-pointer. Well, you said, so he scored 166 in some change, right? And he netted
163 and an eighth.
Yeah, and you know, that there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, that thing is super typical, super clean looking, you know, and there's guys that shoot big 8-pointers that have a little trash or, you know, have a little bit of non-typical stuff. And I mean, that's just one of the cleanest looking, prettiest 8-pointers that you'll ever see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Lucas Norby's buck that he shot last year too, but his buck had a 4-point side on one side, and I think his main beam was close to 29 inches, which is insane for a deer too. So yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You can tell he wanted to throw a little kicker or something. You know, maybe next year he
Kind
would
of
have
bladed. Yeah.
threw some splits or kickers back in, which would increase the score, but you know, clean 8 like that,
Yeah.
pretty special. Just clean deer in general.
Yeah.
Like, not very often as the buck gets older, they stay clean. It seems like they always want to throw a little bit of something out there.
Yeah. Especially when he even had other points coming off his brows the year previous too.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that he went typical, but he looks pretty clean and pretty awesome.
So do you think if you put that water, that is like a man-made little waterhole pond.
Yep.
How big of a factor do you think that is in that scenario? If you did not have water, do you think this deer would
Yeah, I think
be there?
Almost every spot that I'd get him regularly on camera had a water hole or water source next to it. So I think it played a pretty dang big role in keeping him around, which, I mean, the spot where I shot him up top, we've had a water hole up there for the last 4 or 5 years. And I think actually I went back and looked at the tact cams after I shot him, and I got a video of him coming to the scrape and everything on the tact cam. And while he's up there, I got a picture down below at the water hole. There was 6 different bucks up there drinking yet.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I know Tom Interval always talked about how there's so much, like, during the like foliage and everything on the brassica plots and everything, there's so much moisture that it kind of holds in those leaves where they don't really have to drink. But I mean, I guess it's been kind of drier lately, so he's been coming to the water hole quite a little bit more the last week or so. So it's, yeah, definitely a draw for him too.
Absolutely.
Can't beat a good water hole.
No.
Especially early season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What were there, a bunch of acorns dropping?
Yeah.
White oaks?
They kept laying it on the blind too during the night too. It's pretty comical to hear.
Dinner bell.
Yeah.
Come over to the blind.
Well, I had to go up there a week before because I had a solar panel up there, and like the regular battery tray, the ants got in it and it corroded the whole battery and everything. So I had to replace the battery and put a new solar panel up there. And while I was up there, I was just getting pelted with acorns when I was walking around too. You'll probably see in the footage too, we planted, I think, 4 or 5 apple trees right closer to the blind there. And we got a couple more on the edge of the food plot too. So a couple more years, they'll be dropping apples up there too. And that early season, they hammer those apples too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of have a whole, I mean, you're giving them everything that you need right there. So not only are you planting the food plot, you have the water hole, you have the fruit trees, you have the scrape, tree there. So it's like you're giving the deer everything they need to get cover close. Like I think that's, as many, things that you can put in one spot for them and put it close to cover and where they bed. Like that's a recipe for obviously big bucks. The proof's right there.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with those earth ponds being a bigger thing now too. You see a lot of people putting those right in the middle of like food plots or whatever, getting them in a bow range and everything like that. And that definitely helps a lot because those things are insanely good once rut comes around even too. Not even right now.
We just put in 2 yesterday, middle of the day. There was deer on it. There was 6 deer on it 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew there was an old tank there that was getting dirty and kind of, we didn't maintain it quite as well as we should have, but the deer pond being more shallow, 240, like a real big one, put in there, and deer were on it 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Drinking it. Not just looking at it, actually drinking from it. So
wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, when we redug that one pond this year, me and my brother, we were out there with his mini dozer or his mini hoe, and we went in there and scraped it all out, put the tarp down, layered it back over, and went over and seeded over clover and everything. And probably 2 hours later, I think 6 or 7 deer were out there. They love that fresh dirt too. Once they smell that fresh dirt, they just want to be out there and run around. And you see does and fawns acting like little freaks. Yeah, run around.
That's awesome. So obviously Wisconsin bow tag is filled now in a big way. What's next for you the rest of the season?
Well, I don't have Iowa again this year, which sucks, which would be another good draw to go down there and hunt all year. But my buddy Dustin's got an Iowa tag. I think I'm going to go down there and film him, and I'll probably be filming the other guys, part of the team, probably Fletcher and Brody and Luke too. Cole and Jake got a pretty big on camera too, so hopefully maybe go film him. I mean, I got some options to go film, and my dad's still got a tag too, so I got to make sure that got to get him on one now too, since I shot the one that was pretty high on our target list. But there's a couple other mature ones around that I'd really like to see him get his tag on too, and hopefully he'd be more than happy to wrap his tag around him too. So got options. I don't know if I'll make it over to Minnesota or not with all the filming, but I'd probably go over there a couple times. I got to put up more cameras and everything yet, now that the attention's kind of focused over that way. But excited. There's a lot of season left, so kind of hoping that maybe we can get 2 down in 1 year. I've never done it before.
Hey, what about a gun tag? Do you do much for gun hunting?
I do gun hunt too, but we don't really have a whole lot of luck during gun season. It's mostly just taking care of the doe population, shooting a lot of does, but never know.
Pretty good way to kick out the season. I got to mention, we did have another buck come in, Justin from over in North Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
He shot a Montana buck, I think the day before. Was it the day before?
I think so, yeah.
Was it public land? I don't know if it was or not.
I think it was public, yeah.
So, pretty good buck too, like a big 6-year-old, a lot of cool character, like awesome deer. So 2 team members, back-to-back days.
Dang.
Pretty good start. We were pretty jacked. I was like, this is going to be a good year. Look at the first weekend, you know.
Yeah, I don't remember when I texted you guys. I don't know if it was that night or later. I think I said BBD or something like that, or got him or something like that. But yeah, pretty cool. Can't really beat that ever.
I know everybody over here is pretty jacked for you. And pretty good way to break the ice. And Justin shooting that one, obviously this hammer down. It was cool. So that next morning, I had my son out, my middle son Declan, and he's 5 years old.
Was that Monday?
It was Monday. Yeah.
Monday.
And man, he's been practicing all summer shooting the 10-point crossbow, and he was ready. Like, I didn't know if he would be ready to actually get out and, could show the patience to shoot some. He shot a couple turkeys, and but if he was ready to deer hunt. And, it's so funny because he's a wild man. Like, he is our wild child by a lot. But like, you get him out there, and I watched him turkey hunt, and you get him out in the blind, and he's like, acts like a grown-up, like quiet, calm, patient. He practiced enough. So we took him out that Monday morning, and sure enough, he shot his first buck. It was a little spike. And that was the coolest thing that I've ever seen. I can tell you that, like, I was trying to range him, and he was like at 40 yards, and then he's getting closer, and he was like 30 yards. By the time he was at 30, this is a spike. I was shaking so bad I couldn't get a range on the deer. And I'm like, John, how far is he? Because, like, I'm shaking, and Declan's just cool as a cucumber, smile ear to ear. He's like, I got him, Dad, But anyway, so we got him, and it took him to the butcher, and over at Eagle Peak over there, and great people, and we've taken a few deer over there, and just love just going over there and BSing. And I was asking him, I said, we got any good bucks in. And he had said they caped a few. He's like, well, I got a really big one in. He said, and he opened the cooler up, and there's Mitch's buck laying there, your buck. And I'm like, holy smokes, I said, I know that one.
Yep. Yeah, I got to thank him a lot for keeping it cool for me overnight with early season like that. You don't want to leave him out too long and then have him get infection and the cape's all bad for the mount. So I was pretty worried about getting him in the cooler. And yeah, special thanks to Eagles Peak for helping me with that too.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Good people. If you're over there in the western Wisconsin area and looking for somewhere to take your deer, definitely 2 thumbs up there and appreciate those guys. But I look at that deer laying in the cooler, I'm like, holy smokes, like the pictures. I mean, they pictures make him look big, but he's even bigger than that. Like, they don't do him justice. And the way that deer filled up the cooler was awesome. So I'm glad I got to see it then and get to see it again now. Yeah. So if you want to leave it here, we could take care of for you if you want. But.
Pass around.
Obviously, when you get that shed too, if you can.
Yeah.
Or if you could find the other shed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Man, that's pretty cool. And you can know what pose you're going to do.
Yeah. I'm going to have him tilted off a little bit to kind of show off this, inch bigger side that he's got on his G2 there. I'm going to get a pedestal mount on him too. Probably have Johnny's buck, because I have a pedestal of him, put him in one corner, and then him in the other corner, kind of like they're facing off at each other.
That's awesome.
Be pretty sweet.
That's awesome. Well, Mitch, we appreciate you coming in, man, and sharing the story and just being a part of, the Deer Society and obviously heck of a buck. We couldn't be happier for you. Guys, definitely give Mitch a follow. Check out Bluff Country Outdoors. We talked about the story of this buck a little bit, but for that full story and the hunt and some wicked footage, definitely go check that out. You're going to be releasing this hunt coming up here pretty soon, right?
I'm hoping so, yeah. I mean, I do this kind of stuff full time too, and I got other projects I got to get done before and get those sent out, but might have a couple late nights putting it together, but I definitely want to get it out sooner than later.
Well, definitely go check that out, and then obviously we're going to do a hunt breakdown and break down the full hunt too here on the Deer Society channel. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Good luck out there in the woods. Obviously, big bucks are hitting the ground. Some exciting things happening. New hunt breakdowns, new content every week, and giveaways with every single hunt breakdown. Giving away some great stuff. We're already giving away 10-point crossbow, some illusion, food plot seed, and calls. Some more great stuff coming up. Maybe a bow, maybe some other stuff. So some big giveaways. Make sure you subscribe. Check out those hunt breakdowns and stories like this. This is, hey, why would we do what we do, and just try to keep bringing you the best content and the best stories we can. So we appreciate you tuning in.
100%. Thank you guys for having me on, and thanks for letting me be a part of the Deer Society. It's pretty cool.
Hey, we're just trying to be like you now.
The Deer Society podcast is brought to you by Illusion Hunting Systems, Onyx Hunt, Reveal Cellular Cameras, 10-Point Crossbows, Crime Archery, Loophole Optics, G5 Broadheads, Osseo Gear, Raw Frozen Scents, and HHA.